So when you were in Montreal,
Yeah.
you broke up with somebody that you were living with.
So I was with my ex for almost 5 years. Yeah.
Oh, how old are you now? If you don't mind
28.
asking? You're 28. Okay.
Yeah. So
I'm
like half of my
27.
20s. You're 27?
Just like, yeah.
Oh my
yeah.
God,
We're just like sweet little teenage girls.
I do feel like I feel the older I get, the younger I feel. I felt definitely older at like 24, 25 than I do feel now.
No, same. Even if I'm going to pop a picture on the screen, this is so vulnerable to me, but I feel like even when I was like 21, I looked older.
Yeah, for
than
sure.
I do right now.
You don't know
and I
your,
think
like,
it was partly because I
place.
was like so preoccupied with like being like, I don't want to be a kid anymore.
That's
like,
what it was.
You know what I mean?
I was so like in my career, like it was like my job serious, my relationship serious, like I'm moving, like I'm going to take it all serious. And now I'm just like, whatever happens, happens. And I feel like
I'm like,
younger
Hilary,
about
take
that.
off the glasses and the sweater vest. Like it's not necessary
It's not doing
right now. Like, it's okay. So did you move to Montreal with your ex?
Yeah. Okay. So what happened was we started dating in Toronto. We met 1 month later. He moved to Iceland. I moved to Australia. We met knowing that we both already were like gonna move. So we're like, perfect, let's hook up. This is nothing. Fall in love. End up doing long distance. And then 6 months later, I was in Australia, COVID hit. We had planned for him to like come because I went for school. So we had planned for him to like come to Australia with me and like my best friend who I moved, this girl, Alina. We were there. We're like, let's do a summer, whatever. And then everything shuts down, right? So what ended up happening was
Wait, so sorry, you'd already gone to Australia before the lockdowns had started
exactly.
happening?
Literally 3 weeks before lockdowns. I was there for 3 weeks in Melbourne. And then on the third
And Australia
week,
had, I think, like really strict lockdowns
we were
too,
in the
right?
state and like the city that had the most severe lockdowns, like 100-meter max radius. Like you could get like stopped, asked like what you were doing.
Yeah.
And we couldn't even, we had friends in like Queensland and like more northern Australia with like the beaches and everything like that. And you couldn't do, it's kind of similar to Canada. Like you can do province to province travel.
Yeah.
So yeah, we were bunkered down.
Oh my God.
But yeah, long story short, I'm
Still talking to the man.
Who?
You end up still talking to your ex when you were in Australia?
Yeah, like we're doing long distance. Like every day we're talking.
Sorry, rewind. You literally only dated for a month?
Yeah, like in person.
In person?
Yeah.
And at the time you were like, this is just a hookup fun thing?
No, like the first day or two. And then after 2 weeks, we were like, okay, we love each other. Like we're gonna, like we're exclusive.
Gotcha,
like we're for sure in a relationship. Do long distance for 6 months.
Oh my God.
And then I ended up flying straight to Iceland to be with him because there was no flights. Like the flights were fucked. Like he couldn't come to me. I couldn't go back to Canada. That was the biggest thing. Like I had, so finally Iceland and those like countries were the first, like Sweden, what is it? Like the Shenzhen area. Is that how you say it?
Sure.
Shenzhen, those like Nordic countries. They were
so
the
sorry
first
if we've
ones.
offended anybody from there. Write it in the comments so we know who it is.
Just alleged disclaimer. I'm sorry. Whatever else. My bad. But they were like the first countries that opened up. Yeah. And they were like, okay, as long as you get tested, you can like come in into the country. So go to Iceland. And then from there, we were there for 6 months, figuring out how to get back to Canada.
So you started the relationship the first year of your relationship, you went from
6
being
months.
6 month long distance. And then 6 months, like, oh, now we're living together.
Yeah.
Like, so, oh my God.
Literally, I was just talking about this with my boyfriend now, where I was like, in my last relationship, that was the last time that I'll do this. But like, we didn't realize until a few years later that we never had the conversation of living with each other because it was the crazy times of COVID. It was like, well, fuck else are you going to do? Like, come here. But then from there, we ended up moving to Montreal, there for 2 years. And then we moved back to Toronto. Like, we're both from there last year. And then we ended up splitting up after like 8 or 9 months of our condo together in Toronto. Yeah.
Okay.
So...
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So sorry, what you're saying is you would not recommend people start a relationship long distance and then immediately move in with someone.
You know what? It wasn't bad. I really did like that relationship.
Yeah.
But I think like when we were breaking up, because he's a couple years older than me. So exactly. We started the relationship when I was like 21, 22. He was like 23. And ended it at like 27, 28, and 29 on his part.
But that's like your whole 20s with like one
20s,
person. Yeah. Which like, let's face it, like, I don't know, maybe it's just like trauma I've had or something like that. But like, I don't remember the first like 10 years of my life that vividly. So then when you get to be like 26, 27 and you're like ending a relationship and you're like, I've been with this person like half my like conscious life.
Yeah,
like,
for
it
sure.
feels so big.
I really felt like I lived my life with that person. Like that was so nice in that sense. Like we really are like amicable now. Like everything was good in our breakup. We just knew like we're not going down like the same path, I'd say.
Yeah.
But that is like one of the post-mortem conversations that we had. We were like, like we never really like talked about like moving in together. Like it all just flowed.
Yes. Yeah.
But like maybe now that we're older, it would have been more of a like, okay, what do you want from life? What's your career? Like what's your expectations of living with someone? Like we didn't do any of that.
I know. I had like, it's funny because I had like a very similar experience in my early 20s where I was also like long distance with somebody.
Okay.
And then moved in with them.
Yeah.
And then that was the most like time we were spending together. And then I think we were together for almost 3 years, like or 2.5 years in like total. And then we lived together for like the last year. Yeah. And that was when I was like, as soon as we moved in together, I was like, oh, I don't know if that was the best decision.
That's what happened for me, where it was the last time that we moved in together, because it was our third like apartment that we lived in. And it was on that time where what happened with me and him was the roommate phase, where I was like, we are just really good friends. We really understand each other, but we're roommates. Like there's no like super romantical like chemistry. Like you're not keeping that like romance alive. And especially after like 4 or 5 years with jobs, with everything, with busy schedules, I know. You have to really be on top of like, okay, let's make some romantical time. So it was kind of that too, where I was like, oh, like I knew like 2-3 months in, I was like, we're not like in a good like flow. Like we're not hitting the
And had you been experiencing that before you moved into your last apartment with him?
Honestly, no. You know what? Maybe like towards the end of us living together in Montreal, like baby snippets of it. Yeah. But like, again, nothing like enough to be like, okay, this is like not sustainable. But it was really, and it's kind of unfortunate. It's like a blessing and a curse, but like my life got so much busier and so did his, and kind of what you were saying, like,
yeah, you're like, I'm a rat girl now, I'm popping off,
dude. Like
I've got rat girl army
things. You have an army to take care of, your children to feed. Like
I've got rat girls at home,
real shit to worry about. Yeah. So
no, that's so true.
Yeah, it just got busier, and it was like, fuck. Like if you're not on top of it, like you're just gonna get lost. In what you're doing. Yeah. So.
Do you remember? Was there either a moment on his side or your side where you were like, oh, the magic has fizzled, or like you're not like romanced in the same way you want to be?
You know what? I feel like I had an answer to this question before. It's kind of like slipped my mind now, but yeah, like it was honestly, when girls say it's the little things, it's always the little things. It's really just like, it's not going to be like a big blowout fight or something like that. Like we really, honestly, for the most of that relationship, I didn't fight with that person. Like that's why for like 5 years, it really was like conversation, sure, but we weren't fighting. But it's like small moments. Like it'll be something like, you know, like they don't get you a coffee, or like tiny things that you just realize maybe this is not my person or my future, you know?
Okay.
What about you? Was it like a big realization?
It was a bit more of a bigger realization. Also, sorry, I know you were just being silly with like the American stuff earlier, but we have diversity here on this podcast. We're getting deep. If you want to break up with somebody this holiday season, do it. If you don't do that.
Do not go into 2025 with a guy you want to break up with.
Ooh, yes, love that. Well, I want to get your take on New Year's resolutions totally as well. But yeah, for like, it's such a good question. So like the relationship that I was in, like from my perspective, like he almost became like a bit of a different person when we moved in together.
Oh, interesting.
And I think there was a lot of factors at play. So like I was like down here in like Southern Ontario. He lived in Kingston, which is like about like a 3-hour drive. So like not like long distance, but like long enough that's like, you know, kind of like weekends thing. And then I actually moved to Thunder Bay right after I finished school.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
How long were you there?
About a year. And that was the year that we like lived together.
Okay.
I went up there for work, and I remember like when I was offered the job, because then again, it's like a new grad in like what I was like working in. I was like, okay, there's not a lot of opportunities. Like, sure, if I got to go to Thunder Bay, cool, whatever. It'll be a fun experience, which shout out T-Bay. Hello, all my fans from there. No. But, and I remember like calling him when I got the job, and I was kind of like, okay, like they offered me this job. Like, I think I'm going to take it. And like, I think I asked her, like, I was like, do you think, like, would you move with me, or would we keep doing long distance? Like, I was open to a variety of options. Yeah. And he was like, oh, no, like, I'll come. Like, it'd be great. Cool. I was like, okay. And that was kind of like,
in fact, not great.
Narrator, dun, dun, dun. It was actually not that great.
It's not chill.
I know. But yeah, and I think that was kind of the extent of the conversation of like moving in together. That was kind of it. And then
I think it's a canon event. I think every girl needs to go through the just figure it out. Just move in.
Just do it. You just do it.
But
then I get really sad and scared when I see girls where I'm like, no, honey, you didn't see the writing. You should have actually dumped him like 3 years ago. Yeah. And now this is kind of embarrassing for everybody. But like,
now we're all involved.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Now we've got a side group chat being like, yo, is this man coming? Ugh, gross. But like, yeah. I think it takes like at least like 2-ish years to like really know someone. Like at least. And
very much agree with
keep
this.
like knowing them. But I think you've got to unpeel like the layers of somebody. And you also need to know, this is like one thing that I've realized as I'm maturing in my ancient age of 27 years old, is that like, it's like also too like how you, like, I used to be very averse to conflict. And so like that was definitely a factor in like the downfall of my previous relationship. And so I was kind of like, oh my God, if there's any sort of like disagreement or whatever, then like that means it's bad. That means it's bad. And it's like, no, actually you should have
conflict.
Exactly. But it's like, where does that conflict go? Do you go to like making personal attacks or like calling names, or is it just kind of like
how you actually argue is very important?
Exactly. Yeah. So I didn't realize all these things, but yeah. And I felt like, so we moved in together, and it was so funny when we first moved in. I don't think I've talked about it like this on the podcast yet before, but I started getting like, I struggle with like depression and like little scatterbrain and all those things. But I had never really struggled that much with anxiety up until that moment. And I just started getting like the like panic attacks out of nowhere, Veronica. And like, I didn't realize they were at the time. Like my chest just started like hurting. And I was like, oh, I guess I've been smoking a lot of weed recently. Like maybe that's
something
it.
else.
Like I was like, or my diet hasn't been that good, or I need to like hit the gym more or something like that. But it like genuinely like felt like pain. Like I felt like I'd done too many push-ups, like kind of like hit chest day too hard kind of thing. And I went to like a walk-in clinic, and I was like, hey guys, this is what's happening. Like check, can you whatever. They gave me a scan, everything, check my blood pressure, check my blood levels. And they were like, yeah, you're fine. Here's some pamphlets for like anxiety, but because I was describing what's happening, and I was like, oh shit. And like looking at the time, I was kind of like, oh, okay, whatever. I guess I have to like meditate a little bit more or something like that. But looking back on it, I think that was my body telling me like, no, this is like not a match. And anyways, I don't want to like speak like badly about anything like that. I think he was also going with his own struggles of like mental health and like that kind of thing too. But your body knows. Yeah. And it was similar to like kind of like when we moved in together, kind of like just being more roommates. And he had like kind of anger management issues also. Yeah. Which is like not sexy and cool and fun. So yeah, anyways, fellas, if you got anger management issues, take care of that yourself. Don't take it out on other people.
Yeah. Here's the banner down here with the hotline.
Don't take it out on hot girls that you're gonna have a podcast in the future and drag your name. No, I'm just kidding.
Seriously. Look at us now.
Look at us now, bitch.
You knew it would come back.
So funny.